There is a secret that most pro athletes, elite CEOs, and high performers all know. They all have a group of world-class coaches working for them to help them optimize their potential. At Super Athlete Radio, our goal is to provide you with the caliber of world-class coaches and guests to help you unlock your potential, dominate your industry, and dominate your life. Let's get better today. Welcome to another episode of Super Athlete Radio, where I am really excited to bring on entrepreneur and human performance expert Dustin Baker onto the show today. Dustin does an amazing job of telling stories, dropping wisdom, providing some really cool facts on how important human growth hormone is in terms of optimizing our performance, and he does it in a really simple, easy to understand way. Really excited to have Dustin on the show today. If you have not yet subscribed to Super Athlete Radio, please do that now. Please do us a favor and leave us a review, because that's the number one way you can support us at no cost. And without further ado, Dustin Baker, let's get better today. And I'm really excited to bring on Dustin Baker, CEO of BioProtein Technology, to Super Athlete Radio today. Dustin, how are you?
I'm great, buddy. Thanks for having me on, Chase. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to chat today.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to have you share with our audience the product that you guys manufacture and create. Before we get there, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you grew up and then how you got into this space.
Oh, man. How much time do you have?
I'll be all day,
just
baby.
Kidding. I didn't really want or was searching to get into the hormone space. I would say that the hormone space kind of chose me, and it's funny how different journeys and different life events lead you to different places. But realistically, it's more of what got me into health, fitness, wellness, just, being an overall good person, actually inside, physically, and out. And one of the things that led me there, how I kind of got there, was I didn't grow up that way. I grew up the exact opposite way. So I grew up in a single parent household. I was raised by my grandmother. And why I say that is because a lot of people grow up that way, where their parents are just trying to get the bills paid and keep the lights on. And we don't necessarily get, and you can see it today with today's youth, get any real nutritional education, or you play team sports and stuff like that, but is there really an educational process going on to help kids who then develop into teenagers, who then develop into young adults with good habits, right? Of healthy habits. I mean, my father smoked, my father, grandfather, everybody smoked cigs. My dad played football. They were smoking cigarettes on the sidelines, right? Like they were smoking cigarettes in the hospital. So that's kind of the mentality that we grew up with. Everybody wants to grow up and be healthy, but we don't necessarily have those good habits baked within us all the time. Not because anybody's a bad person, not because my parents are bad people, they're not, but their focus was very different. So growing up, I didn't have those things, and that bled into my early 20s, which led to a much more destructive, unhealthy lifestyle. You have drinking, you have smoking, you have, all the types of fun stuff that college age youth goes through. And when that is the crux of your life, right? You can find yourself without much direction. And that's exactly where I was. I was a 20-something with zero direction and zero purpose. And I had a friend who one day kind of came in and was like, hey, why don't you cut that stuff out? Why don't you come to the gym with me? And I did. And that was a pivotal moment in my life, because what I found at that gym, even that one day that led to many others, was something I couldn't just buy, something I couldn't just get. I mean, that was something that I wanted to work for. Being physically fit, being, peak physical condition is something you have to earn. It's not something you can purchase. It's not something you can con your way through. It's not something you can just find and grab. It's something you have to invest in. And it gave me a purpose, and that purpose led me to everything I could learn about human performance, how to develop yourself into more of an athlete, even if you're not, right? Like a competitive athlete, or even just a weekend warrior, like everything I could learn about nutrition and performance. And I found my way under the tutelage and a mentorship of an ex-Olympic decathlete who taught me everything he could. And I lived in basements and clean gyms, doing anything I could to learn. And one thing led to another, and developing those skills led me to taking over other individuals' facilities that did very well, which led to other people wanting to get involved in the projects I was involved in, so much so that I found my way into, at one point, in professional football and collegiate athletic prep and getting invited to the combine. And like, I've never taken a snap of football in my life, dude. I never played football. So it just, one thing led to another. And during these ventures, I will say, there was a small regional company and a lab that would make these formulas here in Florida, and I would use them. People around me would use them. We started giving them to athletes. At some point, I actually owned my own physical locations, physical gym, and we would provide the products to individuals there, which was a different demographic than professional athletes. But either way, these products would consistently work, and they worked very well. So one thing leads to another, and you find opportunities. And I put together a team, and we basically just approached this company of like, hey, we really believe in what you're doing. We've been using them for years. We love it. Why don't you let us take it over? So we put together a deal and had a deal of acquiring, this portfolio of different formulas and these brands. And, that was about 5 years ago. And at this point, we went from a small regional company doing a few bucks a month to, we've been shipped to over 40 different countries. We're on every continent other than Antarctica. And we're launching with a $1 billion company in the Q1 of next year. So it's been a wild ride. And, the industry kind of sucked me in, which is great because it gives me the ability to help people who I care about helping.
That's great. And then before we dive into the details of the specific products, I don't know how much you want to answer, well, you feel comfortable answering this, but what you said in terms of growing up and not having this idea of the better we take care of ourselves physically, then the better our life can be beyond that. Do you feel like the generation now, or like moving forward, do you have any ideas on how that could be brought in to like general culture and public education?
How to implement better education to children?
It could be through education. Whether it's through parenting, education, to sports.
I'll be honest with you, and I don't mind speaking a very direct opinion here. I don't believe that the educational system has a vested interest in educating kids and developing them into peak physical condition. I think it's quite the opposite. If you look at actually what's going on, I think how I see the best way to impact the next generation is to, number one, live the example. So nobody actually listens to what you have to say. You have to live the example of it in and of itself, right? You can have businessmen. Would you ever have a business mentor that, you're taking financial advice from or direction from of how to structure a business, somebody who's never done it before, right? Or hasn't fallen into those. What's that?
People do that in business school all the time. I don't know if it's.
I don't take advice from people who went to business school. I take advice from people who have successful businesses that have stood the test of time. And that's exactly why I say that. I never went to business school. I didn't graduate college. I paid a few times. I never actually showed up. I've showed up a few times. I barely graduated high school, dude. So I don't follow the normal educational system. And that's why I was saying that, is because I don't believe that they have a vested interest. In fact, childhood obesity is at an all-time high. I think obesity overall is at an all-time high. And I personally feel it has to do with a sense of, number one, there's zero education. There's zero, wouldn't say zero, I'd say a very small percentage of education, very small percentage of even the prior generation educating the next, right? And I think that's what I was about to say is mentorship. Direct mentorship is the fastest way you can impact somebody else's life. So if this is something you care about, you need to get involved with your own hands, right? Those individuals who are directly around you, your friends' kids, your kids, be the example and give real world tactical advice that can be used. That's the fastest way I think that can happen. And I think that's the only way to really get it through to the other people, instead of spitting rhetoric like I'm literally doing right now on a microphone to you.
I love that. Yeah, I saw Dr. Sean Baker, the carnivore guy.
I've done his show. Yeah, I've spoken with Sean. We roll in similar circles as well.
Yeah, he seems like a really good dude. But I saw a clip, a social media clip of his the other day where he was making fun of I guess California is looking at removing physical, like those basic physical tests that they had
Yeah.
kids do,
Yeah.
but because they didn't
Presidential
want to
fitness
shame
test or
anybody.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he followed
Well,
that up with like how the pharmaceutical companies are paying the fat influencers to about I don't know. It was really funny.
all I can do is sigh, and it's it is what it is, but there's no anybody who has eyes to see and spends maybe 30 minutes or less on Google doing any basic research can see where the trend is headed. There is science by a few different individuals that actually have mathematically figured out that the median sperm count by the year 2045 will be zero. So the medium rate at which men can reproduce will be zero. That is because hormonal declines, if you go back to like 1980, are at a 1 to 2% decrease overall every single year since that time. So men now who are, I believe this study came out in 2021, who are 20 years old have the same hormone rate as someone who is the age 67 from the year 2000. So it's a massive decline. It's a massive change in human beings, especially within the male part of the population.
That's insane. Is that mostly through endocrine disruptors?
Yeah, I mean, endocrine disruptors are in everything from our food to our air to the clothes we're both probably wearing right now to, I have AirPods in, which are spitting whatever type of radiations directly into my brain. So um, there is a lot of different factors within that, and the medications that we take. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. With females, what you'll find is a lot of women are taking well, I mean, I don't know many men who take these, but I also, don't count them out. I don't judge, but a lot of um, uh, pregnancy drugs. I can't even believe I can't even think of the name of it. But contraceptives, right? So those drugs specifically impact things like directly your hormones, right? You're taking a synthetic hormone from the age of what, 12? I mean, they give these things to young women who are 12, 13 years old for 30, 40 years. And then they have fertility issues. Or one thing that goes unnoticed is that, well, it goes unnoticed while they're doing it and then they come off. But it directly impacts the insulin sensitivity inside of themselves. So how their bodies utilize food. So they gain a lot of weight, body fat. They can't get rid of it. It's because their insulin sensitivity is all jacked up. That happens through a lot of anxiety drugs as well. So you're on these drugs that are being prescribed at very young ages, whether it's contraceptives or whether it's depression medication, which all directly correlate to hormonal disruption and lots of fun stuff. So that also has to do and somewhat play into this whole overview of how we're looking at it, right? These drugs weren't really prescribed to, and I'm just singling those out. There's other things included, but you're looking at drugs that used to be prescribed to individuals who are maybe 20 years old, late teens, even into their, late 20s. Now they're being prescribed to 12-year-olds. So the further you push that back, when a human is less developed, you're going to impact their ability to develop those hormones and how their endocrine system works later on in life.
Yeah. And because of these kind of systems in place, there's a lot of people struggling. Fortunately, because of all this amazing information out there, there's a lot of people who are doing really well. For people, whether you saw in the sports industry or customers of yours now, for people who are already feeling healthy, but they really want to dial everything in physically and mentally, and they came to you, where would you start? What would be some questions that you would ask in terms of what they're doing now and what potentially they could do to really get to peak performance?
Food, hydration, sleep. Top three every time. Sleep is number one. So, especially when you're talking to high performers, sleep is the first thing to go, and it's the first thing that's impacted. And yeah, you feel tired, but if you don't get enough sleep, but you don't I think a lot of people are undereducated in how important sleep is for hormonal secretion, hormonal creation. So as a male, 70 to 90% of all your hormone is secreted during 2 sleep cycles in your sleep, SWS and REM sleep cycles, your two deep sleep cycles, right? So if you're waking up more than once a night, you're probably disrupting those sleep cycles or not getting enough time within them. And if you are not getting adequate time in those sleep cycles, not just necessarily total sleep time, then you are negatively impacting your potential to secrete hormones like growth hormone and testosterone. So those are two big deals within men. And growth hormone, again, is a huge deal within women as well because it's not sex dominant. So
And then do
sleep
you
is
have
number
any
one.
recommendations on improving the REM sleep numbers and the deep sleep numbers?
I do. We actually make a product that does that. It's like getting 8 hours of sleep in six, but that's I mean, you didn't know that, but you teed me up really well. But yes, that. But um, just scheduling it appropriately and putting it's called sleep. I mean, you can look at it. They call it sleep hygiene, right? Setting yourself up to be in your sleep area to be the most beneficial for deep sleep. A lot of people talk about turning off their Wi-Fi router, actually not having your phone in your bed, maybe putting it on actually do not disturb, getting rid of your blue light X amount of time before. You can actually cut out sugar about 3 hours before bedtime, which could potentially manipulate your insulin levels, so you won't be able to secrete as much growth hormone. There are specific temperatures that you can look into that are better for creating more of a better sleep environment. You talk about blackout curtains, wear certain types of masks, having the appropriate type of mattress. I mean, there's tons of things that you can do to improve your sleep. All of those things, a lot of those things cost money. My whole thing is you learn how to schedule everything else. You learn how to schedule all of your meetings. Why not just schedule your appropriate sleep time? Right? If you know how much time you need to get into sleep, do that. I highly recommend. I'm wearing one right now. I don't know them. I don't make any money from them. I wish I did, but I don't. I'm a big Whoop fan. I wear a Whoop band. Dude, there is nothing better that tracks your sleep better than that, especially your slow wave sleep, your SWS, and your REM rapid eye movement sleep cycles. You can directly see when you're impacting those and not.
And then what is like the biggest lever for you in terms of REM?
What do you mean? How much time do I spend in it?
Well, yeah, I get, okay, actually that's a great question. So what would you recommend as a good amount of time for the REM sleep and then deep sleep? And then based on your data and your behavior, what is like the biggest thing of like, okay, I got to make sure I do this to really get a good score?
Okay, well, the number one, if you're an adult and you're not getting at least an hour of each, you are highly deficient. So I haven't lately fallen below an hour and I have a 1-year-old that I'm dealing with too. So I'm yeah, thank you. But anybody who has a kid knows how many times that kid is going to wake you up in the middle of the night and as it continues. But I shoot for, and I am happy with, you should get around like 47 to 50% of your sleep should be in deep sleep. So you have a total time. I think last night I slept for like 6 hours and 47 minutes. And then my total sleep was my total deep sleep cycles were close to 4 hours. So it was over 50%. So I think that's a great score. Yeah. Yep. I have help. I get high on my own supply. If you do, we have a phenomenal sleep product, which again, to anybody listening, that's not why I came on the show, but I mean, no, our sleep product blows your socks off. We just launched that brand a couple weeks ago, and that is a game changer, dude. If anybody is ever skeptical of the kind of stuff that we do, I say don't even worry about our hormone products. Go get our sleep product and call me in 3 days because it works immediately, and they're typically lifers from that point on.
And then what are you guys putting in that?
So it's B6 pyridoxine. We do bovine colostrum, mucuna, which is a L-dopamine precursor. It's a bean extract. And then we have 2 milligrams of melatonin. And then we have our genetic activator, which permeates the cell to help actually drive the nutrients in it, which is shilajit, goji berries, or lithium, and aloe vera extract. So that product is 100% natural. It's basically food grade, but it'll knock your socks off.
And then how does the mucuna, which I have associated in the past with terms of improving testosterone, and then what was the first ingredient that you said?
B6, vitamin B6 pyridoxine.
Okay, how does those impact the body in a positive way to get more REM sleep and deep sleep?
So B6 is really cool, but those people who are suffering from sleep typically have a B6 deficiency. It also is really good for all the ingredients are really good for gut health as well. So lowering like a stress level. But the mucuna is really great because mucuna it's like a focus drug. right? It calms the mind. It kind of puts you at ease. And then colostrum is the same thing that you get as an infant from your mother's breast milk, which helps. It's the same thing. It triggers a sleep cycle. And then the melatonin is, melatonin is the actual chemical, the hormone that your brain makes to put you into your deep circadian rhythm sleep cycles. We use 2 milligrams because anything over 5 milligrams should actually concern a human being. What's interesting about melatonin is the United States is only one of a few countries who considers it an over-the-counter drug. So in most places, it has to be prescribed because you can overdo it. And this is what we see in America. Melatonin's great, but you can easily overdo it. A lot of people are like taking like 10, 20 milligram doses. That's very bad. You shouldn't do that. And it's what causes a process called negative feedback loop. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It just means when you take a hormone exogenously or externally, you're going to shut down your body's natural production. So the threshold for that is you should be concerned with anything basically over 5 milligrams of melatonin per serving. A lot of people think that's low. I think that that's plenty. 5 milligrams is something it's anything over that is extreme, and you're going to shut down your body's natural ability to do so. And then you'll have real problems sleeping because you'll have to have it. And you'll have to increase the amount of dosing that you have. We've been actually working with that product for about 10 years with physicians, and we haven't had any issues or ever had any reported issues with negative feedback loop or anything at 2 milligrams. So we're comfortable with that.
And then you said sleep, hydration, food. How do you view hydration? Is there a specific number? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it depends what kind of athlete you are. I think with athletes, it should be, they say about an ounce per pound of body weight. Now that depends on your training, and that depends on where you're training. I'm in Florida in the middle of the summer. The amount of sweat and perspiration you're going to create training outside in Florida is going to be very different than if you were in Seattle, Washington. Okay. But they typically say 3/4 of an ounce to an ounce per pound of body weight. That's a solid number to keep track, to stay on top of. The issue is when you have too little of hydration, your body is going to go into that stress zone, and it's going to spike your stress hormone called cortisol. Sure, you're familiar. Everyone's heard the word cortisol. When cortisol gets involved, cortisol is actually what wakes you up. So when you wake up in the morning, that's where cortisol exists. When you immediately wake up, your body spikes cortisol. That's what gets you awake. It gets you alert. It's your stress, your fight or flight hormone. So you have it immediately the first time in the morning. That's to get you alert. It's to get you awake. It gives you your predatory response. So it also gets spiked if you're being 10,000, however long ago, if you were being attacked by a lion, it would be spiked along with your adrenaline, because that is what's going to give you the alertness, the ability to pull energy stores from the most nutrient dense tissues in your body to climb a tree or to fight an attacker. So you don't want to spike that during certain parts of the day, because cortisol is it's a hormone, and I'm going to use a terminology, please, nobody email me or anything, but it's almost like an anti-hormone as well, meaning if cortisol is spiked, you will not be secreting things like testosterone or growth hormone, et cetera. Your body is worried and focused on cortisol because it's in a fight or flight response. So if you're dehydrated, and you're dehydrated routinely, you are going to spike cortisol, which is going to interrupt your sleep patterns as well.
And then how about food? What are your kind of basic principles in looking at food and going from average performance to optimal performance?
I think that I get in this conversation with people actually quite often because I'm a high carb guy, but I think different things work for different people. I think, yeah, I know. It's like, oh, you're not allowed to say that. It's like, dude, get out of here. I had this author and one of his minions corner me at a show and it just talked to me how, wheat is killing me. And I'm having this guy who, we're in different, let's just say we work out differently. How about we just say that? Well, we train differently, and, telling me how I'm everything, but I'm a bad guy because I eat wheat and stuff like this, or I eat, carbohydrates, and it's this bad thing. And I was like, no offense, dude, I'm going to trust my training regimen and my nutrition, all things considered, then listen to you. And I appreciate your opinion, but I am a high carb guy. Most of the people I know or run around circles with are big on this carnivore thing, but I like fruit, I like honey, I like carbohydrates, and they are necessary for peak performance. I have never trained with a professional athlete that ever subscribed to the full carnivore thing, or and don't tell your buddy Sean that, because he'll tell me I'm an idiot, and that's fine. But I've never trained with a professional athlete or an Olympian that didn't believe in carbohydrates and as a basis for training nutrition. I will say that. But for different people, they have different goals, and maybe those aren't their goals, and they have different goals that different approaches that aren't necessarily wrong would benefit them more. I am personally a high carbohydrate person.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all have different ancestries and backgrounds, and let's just keep it at that.
I'm not against any different approach. I am a calories in, calories out guy at its basis, right?
Okay.
If you have a certain caloric expenditure that you are exerting every day while you are training, you need to at least meet those calories in food. I am not a big believer in massive caloric deficits. I think that will also put you in the stress zone. So you'll spike cortisol that way. I am just not a big believer in the massive caloric deficit type stuff. You have to be in a caloric deficit if you want to lose, you want to lose overall weight, right? That's just a scientific fact. It's a mathematical game, but that's my whole thing on that. I do believe in clean whole foods first and foremost, but I do eat a lot of rice and pasta pretty much every day as well. So.
And then I'd like to start going to IGF-1 here before we start going into like the deer antler velvet and your bioprotein product. I'd like to talk a little bit about colostrum. Could you talk about what the benefits are there, and how much IGF-1 does colostrum have? Is that something that you get a benefit from it, or?
That's, I would never sell a product. I would never sell a colostrum product and make growth factor claims or IGF-1 claims, because in all my years, I've never seen a blood test come back from someone taking colostrum and increasing their growth factor numbers.
Yeah, I've heard you have to have an insane amount daily.
I mean, it's a food, right? It's a food, and colostrum is a great product, and colostrum is awesome. I highly recommend if that's what you're into, go ahead and take colostrum. We use colostrum in some of our products, but to impact from a growth factor perspective, I don't know if I would say that there's any real value there. You know what I mean? If you're getting it from breast milk, I'm sure you're consuming it. I'm not saying that there aren't growth factors within those products. I'm saying to affect a blood test, or to affect, if that's what you're going for, is to increase IGF-1, I wouldn't say colostrum is your best route, because there's IGF-1 in red meat, right? And you're not going to really, you can eat a ton of steak. I don't think you're going to impact IGF-1 numbers.
And then when you were coaching and training elite level athletes, how did you find a company that you guys ended up buying out, and what products were you guys using of theirs?
So we ended up purchasing around 30 plus formulas, different strengths, different combinations of different things. The basic formulas that we would use would be the original formula of our sleep formula. There was a weight loss formula that focused on basically a liver decongestant, meaning the way that your liver signaled your body to process food, utilizing the food as an energy source instead of storing it as fat, like a lipotropics type product. And then our original growth factor formulas, those were created back in 2009, I think, is when the establishment took place. And then we updated them and upgraded them in a pretty big way in 2020. But those are the basic top three formulas. And then we also would provide a vitamin D complex too, because vitamin D is, I would say, the best bang for your buck of any product you can buy. Vitamin D is really cool. Most people don't realize it's not really even a vitamin. It's considered a steroid or hormone. So it's necessary for the hormone processes within your body, especially testosterone.
And then what did you notice in terms of athletes when they started taking these products?
Well, most of them, when we're talking about higher level athletes, we would be talking about the growth factor products. And what you would see shortened recovery times, meaning they would recover faster, and whether that was from injuries or other workouts, right? That would be the entire purpose of them taking them, is they wanted to, your biggest gains, they would always say in pro football, your biggest gains are or seasons are won in the off season, right? So championships are won in the off season, meaning you spend all of your off season finding the best coach you can who do the best workouts and training you the best you can for your next season, because for the next season, for the next however many weeks, you're still going to train, but realistically you're just getting hit by a car every Sunday and you're just trying to hang on to make it through the championship, or even get to playoffs to make it through the championship. But you're preparing your body for that season the months prior. So that's what they mean. Championships are made in the off season. So these players would use the products during the off season, push their training. The more training sessions you're going to get in, closer to 100%, the better off you're going to be when you're on the line come first game of the season. So that's why they would take them. From a professional athlete standpoint, nobody really cared about the weight loss products or some of these other stuff. But when you're talking about performance enhancement, you're talking about recovery. So you're talking about sleep, and that's where the growth factor products came in.
And then what exactly are the products doing in the body? Like if we do like a blood worker.
Yeah, so BioPro Plus, which is
BioPro Plus.
That's the product that has really blown up in the last few years. It's a growth factor formula. So we would need to take a step back to understand how that works. And all we would need to do is we focus on growth hormone science. So your brain, your pituitary gland, and your hypothalamus creates growth hormone. Growth hormone is the master hormone in both men and women. It's responsible for a lot of stuff, from metabolism to muscle cell creation to differentiation, multiplication, to even the elastin in your skin cells, to the healing of soft tissues like tendons and ligaments and all kinds of stuff like that, joints. Okay. So the growth hormone, your body secretes it. What a lot of people don't realize is that it has to be converted by the liver before the body uses most of it. And the liver converts it into what are called growth factors. So the growth factors are what are actually sent out into the blood to trigger cells. They're cell signals. They're called protein cytokines. And all they are is signals. So the growth hormone is simply created to then convert into cell signals. Hormones are just chemical catalysts, okay? They're chemicals your body creates to create a catalyst for a change. So the growth hormone sent to the liver converts it into growth factors. Growth factors are cellular signals that get sent to the cells to then trigger some sort of a function. For muscle cells, which most people love, is it's actually triggering, which is IGF-1, which you mentioned, is one of those growth factors. It's a protein cytokine. It triggers the multiplication and differentiation of muscle cells, meaning it triggers a multiplication, cell splitting, creates more muscle cells. That's why everybody loves growth factors. They typically focus on IGF-1, but within the formulation we are creating, we're actually sucking out 13 different growth factors, everything from IGF-1 to fibroblast growth factor, epidermal growth factor, vasculoendothelial growth factor, a lot of these different components that do different things, whether it's increase oxygen potency within the blood, which is going to increase your VO2 max and your actual cardiac performance, to, like we just mentioned, fibroblast growth factor, epidermal growth factor, which are growth factors that trigger collagen production in the skin, or actual healing for soft tissue ligaments and even wounds in the skin, like actual flesh tearing. So those are all growth factors that trigger that response. So what we do is we suck these growth factors out of another mammal. We spin it very similar to a PRP process. There's a few other things that happen during that process. And then we put it in a formulation that you can take as a human being. You place it under your tongue so the mucosal lining in your mouth can absorb the active ingredients. And then you're off to the races. What you're doing is you're just taking cell signals, which are complex amino acid chains. They're protein chains.
And then the animal is elk that you guys use?
We use American elk. Yeah. In Asia, they use different cervidaean species, which are just antler-bearing mammals. But here in the United States, we use American elk. And
then have you gotten the research? What were some of the Asian countries and Russia doing in terms of this stuff and performance?
So they started this stuff in like the late 60s. So in the late 60s is when growth hormone, the actual synthetic drug, was created. Originally, growth hormone and these types of things were created because you had an actual severe condition, which still exists to this day, called human growth hormone deficiency syndrome, which typically children are diagnosed with. So when they started trying to work out how to fix that, that's where the actual synthetic drug, HGH, human growth hormone, was created. Originally, they would suck it out of human cadavers. So they would suck it out of dead bodies, right? And then they would administer it to human patients. Then that's not exactly scalable. So then they started their recombinant DNA process, which is you're making it in a petri dish. These bacteria are spitting out this drug. You're going through your typical process, and now you have an injectable drug, which has continued to this day. And then in Asia, Chinese, the Russians, they started really this practice of extracting it from, they called it red deer, but that's what they call it in Japan as well. But they extracting these growth factors directly from the living tissue of these mammals. And they were giving it to, you can read stories and studies and stuff about it, giving it to their Olympic athletes and their weightlifters and stuff. China and Russia are the ones who are specifically mentioned, but it's Eastern European countries and other Asian countries like Malaysia and all these places doing it. And that's kind of where we come in, is nobody was really doing it in America, or at least doing it in a clean way. And that's where the basis of the company actually came from, was two brothers wanting to bring this type of science to America and doing it here and creating a brand and a product around it, which they did. We just got a hold of it and took it to a little bit more of a different level, from a American type thing to now international.
And then when you say clean, what do you mean by that?
Well, you don't have regulatory issues like you do. You don't have regulatory issues in certain Asian countries like you do here in the United States. So materials are made in Asian countries, but you can't always guarantee what you're going to get. You can't guarantee how they treat the animal. You can't guarantee how they treat their people. You can't guarantee much of anything. So we focus here in the States. The American elk is actually an incredibly protected animal. You can't cross state lines or the Canadian border with them. I mean, you can't do all kinds of stuff. So the animal here is, the product is humanely extracted. The animal does not die. In fact, it lives 4 to 7 years longer on the farm than it would in the wild. And we can reuse the animal for 10 years instead of, well, not really, for around 4 to 7 years instead of them killing each other in the wild. So it's a little bit more of a process.
And then the process that the Eastern European countries and the Asian countries were doing, they would grind up the antlers, and then what you guys are doing, you guys are doing it in terms of PRP way. And is your way, has that been proven to be more bioavailable to the body?
So you kind of combined a couple things. I won't say that there aren't Asian countries doing it a similar way than we are. But what you were talking about grinding. So when we start to talk about antler, you're going to start to hear words like antler velvet, or you're going to hear, there's a lot of kind of quote unquote mainstream supplementation type products that are on the market like that. And they ride the coattails, I think, of a lot of science that either comes out of Asia and even here, and make specific claims. But a lot of times what you're getting when you buy products like that, you are getting a ground up antler. And so what happens is these antlers, they grow about 1 to 2. We'll talk about the elk. They grow about 1 to 2 inches a day. And the reason why I say elk is because there's different cervidian species, so antler-bearing mammals at different sizes. So I can speak to elk. They grow about 1 to 2 inches a day. Okay, so they grow faster than grass grows, and they grow as a porous, literally blood circulating with stem cell proteins, growth factors. I mean, it is the only appendage in the entire mammalian animal kingdom that fully regenerates. So every single year, these organs, because that's what they are going to grow in. They're going to grow crazy fast, and they are going to grow as a living tissue. Now, before the mating season, which is called the rut, these animals their antlers are going to calcify, meaning they're going to harden. So then they harden to bone. That's no longer a living tissue. And then they scrape, which is part of the rut. They scrape the ground and trees, and they remove all of the, I'm going to call it skin, but it's not considered skin. It's called velvet. But they remove the outer layer, this skin, this velvet skin, from the calcified antler. So then they, not only do they mark their territory, but then they fight rival males for the ability to mate certain females in certain areas. So that's end up how they could potentially kill each other during this whole soiree.
And then after they fight, does it grow faster on the winter? And
so no, actually they fall out.
They fall out after the fight.
Correct.
Okay.
So they fall out on their own. So what you're looking at is you have a lot of these products that hit the market of they're actually going around. So there are farms that do this. They go around, they pick up calcified antler, and then they grind them, and they either put them in pills or capsules or whatever they're doing. That is the equivalent of a toenail, right? So, there's no real efficacy there of use, right? It's like toenails. So you have to pull this material prior to the calcification of the organ itself, which is where the differences lie. And then there's then there are different stages at which time you should pull the material. And then there's actually different portions of that organ which are more nutrient dense than others, which is all kind of IP type stuff. But then you can, there is a way of pulverizing it and extracting it and then spinning it and separating good material from bad, very similar to a PRP process, which is the same. You're pulling blood from the human body, and then you're separating the good constituents from the bad, and then you're reintroducing it back into the area at which you want to create a benefit. And
just to clarify, the pieces of antler that are getting picked up from the ground, those do not have any value in them in terms of
increasing. I wouldn't say that they don't have any value. There's a huge market for dog treats with those.
Okay. Yeah,
But huge market for dog treats. It's not something I would ever use. Not for our products. I don't believe in it. I don't believe there's any efficacy in that. And that's where you get a lot of these studies that come out that show zero efficacy, is because you're testing products that they're ground up toenails. So whether you like it or not, I mean, the cost difference to buying or extracting a raw material in actual weight of something that is calcified antler is about $44 a kilo. Okay, so $44 per 2 pounds, 2.2 pounds. Where to extract a material that we're dealing with is about $5,000. So you're looking at over a 10x difference in price.
100x, yeah, that's crazy. Have you ever heard of the Merrow Root? Maral?
No.
So I've been really into adaptogens and things like that. One of my personal mentors is he's been in the U.S. for about 30 years, but he was one of the top. He's like 96, still killing it, taking whatever he's taken. But he was one of the top track coaches in the Soviet Union for a long time. Then he came over to the States. He's been one of the top track coaches here. So ever since I started getting mentored by him, I've been really into adaptogens and things like that. And so Merrow Root, it's also called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's like RHAPONICUM, like Raponi.
No idea.
Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay, so
no, I'm not.
So I don't know if it's elk or the deer, whatever is in Eastern Europe over there. After they fight for the male, the loser would immediately dedicate its next amount of time to try and find this root in the ground and eat it up and eat it.
Well,
and the human beings over there noticed that. And then I haven't seen like scientific benefits for sure, but it's like the one kind of herb adaptogen that is shown to increase muscle mass.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I'll have to check it out, man. I don't get too deep in the woods with all kinds of fun materials to play with. Maybe when later down the road we're looking at new stuff, but I always like hearing about new things or things I don't know about clearly that are people are finding really good success with.
Yeah. And then with increasing growth factor so we're huge here at Super Athlete with our clients that look, you may not be a pro athlete, you're probably not, but the better you take care of yourself physically, the better you will be able to perform at whatever it is that you do.
1,000,000%.
Okay.
1,000,000%.
And why do you feel, in your experience, why do you say that so adamantly?
Because I'm a big combat sports guy, okay? And I'm not a pro fighter, okay? I'm not an amateur fighter. But I train every week, several times a week, MMA, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, and boxing. Not because I'm never going to step into a ring, but I find that when you have, outside of your business, when you have something that takes your time, it takes focus, it takes dedication, it takes hard work, and it's something that you're committed to, that you care about, it bleeds into the rest of your life. It's a discipline thing. And so it's a discipline thing. It's a getting hurt thing, right? And what you'll find with successful businessmen, and if I'm successful or what is people would consider successful, that's phenomenal. I think there's guys that are clearly 1,000,000 times more successful than I am. And what I've noticed from those guys that I get advice from is that they all have one thing in common, and that they're able to get punched in the face, whether it's literally or figuratively, and get right back up and not let it affect them. We teach that to sales guys all the time. It's like the best sales guys are the guys that can hear no 1,000,000 times and just, they don't even let it affect them. They just keep moving forward. And it's not that they're that much better than anybody else. They're able to hear the word no, get punched in the face, have a failure, and it doesn't affect them moving forward. And so when you look at high performers, it's having something like working out, which hurts. If you're doing it right, it hurts. It absolutely hurts, especially as you age, right? I'm not saying you should go and get injured, but I'm saying working out hard hurts. It sucks. You know, it's a level of dedication that takes discipline. And we talked about this at the beginning of the hour of the show, is that it's not something you can buy. It doesn't matter how successful you are, right? Sure, there's ways to make things easier, right? If you got a few bucks to buy better equipment or better products to make you perform better, then yeah, of course. If you have better coaches, yeah, of course. It's going to help you. It's going to help you speed that process up or do it safer. But you can't buy success in anything that has to do in a physically competitive environment. And so that will directly spill over into the rest of your life. I can absolutely 100% guarantee that, and I'm comfortable saying that. And I'm sure you probably agree.
100%. Yeah, that's amazing. And then with your customers, let's start with just your number one product, which is BioProtein Plus, which increases growth factor in the body. Mm-hmm. Is this for, you would say, everybody, or
no?
Okay.
No, I would not. I don't believe any product is for everyone. If you are an individual who is kind of just like looking for a quick fix and you're not willing to put in work in other areas of your life, I don't think there's any product that's going to work for you. You can go spend $10,000 a month and get a synthetic injection, and the HGH isn't going to do anything for you. And the reason why, it might give you a little bit of energy, and I think you might be better off with it. But is it worth the best bang for your buck? Absolutely not, because there are much more things you should be focused on than buying somebody's products like mine if you don't have your nutrition, your sleep, your hydration, the rest of your life kind of in order. Because I would never want someone to buy our products and be disappointed. And the reason why I say that is because there's no product on earth. Again, you can take any injection or pill you want. There's no product on earth that's going to outwork a pizza donut diet, right? It just doesn't exist. So they're not for individuals like that. They're not for children, right? Do we have physicians who recommend it for kids? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that for children. I think there's better ways out there to help them perform and help them do certain things that, we don't recommend it for, people under 18. I wouldn't always recommend it for everybody in their 20s. I would say that it's a per case basis. Now, I just told you earlier that hormone levels are the lowest they've ever been in recorded history, and I would agree with that. So if you're in your 20s and you're listening to what I'm saying, and you're like, oh yeah, it'd be for me. Okay, cool. Maybe you should speak to a physician first and make sure it's worth your time and money, that you're in a position that products like these are going to benefit you enough to make sense for the cost, right?
And then with the blood panel and or a hormone test, what would they be looking for?
So typically, the blood panels, so you got to remember, we have actually a lot of that information and data, because for 10 years, all we did was sell to doctors. So they were doctor provided products. We didn't go direct to the consumer until 2020, till the Q2 of 2020. So we have, and we still do physicians. I mean, we have national franchises of physician organizations that provide our products. In fact, they're our biggest customers. But they send in blood panels, and we see increases in testosterone, free and total. And then we see increases in IGF-1. Now, if you're going to go get a blood panel, you got to ask for IGF-1 these days, because they don't actually include that on a normal blood panel. Why? I have my own personal beliefs systems why, but that's neither here nor there. The typical blood panel that we see is testosterone, and that includes patients who are on synthetic testosterone and those who are not. And the reason is because most people don't know this, that growth factors are essential and work synergistically with testosterone, whether it's a synthetic injection or a natural testosterone. They have to be used together for the most optimum anabolic and effect. So 30 years ago, if you got TRT, number one, TRT wasn't prescribed like it was back then, like it is now. Now it's like everybody I'm in Florida, dude. It's every clinic is a TRT clinic. But 30 years ago, if you went and got TRT in 1998, you got a growth hormone treatment with it, 1,000,000%, because those things need to be used together for optimum effect. The growth hormone treatments have fallen off. And the reason being is because regulations have skyrocketed for growth hormone. In fact, in some states, I don't believe you can actually get it. And for, I think most states, prescribing it for anything outside of growth hormone deficiency syndrome would be considered off-label, and in many states that's not allowed. So if you can get it, the treatments can range anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 a month. So as those prices increased, you're not exactly going to have a lot of patients who are going to be able to throw $10,000 in cash every month, outside the Liver King to have their growth hormone setups. So they just kind of dwindled off into the ether. So now you had the rise in products like peptides. So everybody knows the word peptides. Well, peptides are secretagogues. The growth hormone peptides are secretagogues, meaning instead of replacing the hormone, they squeeze and manipulate your pituitary gland to then create more growth hormone. Either way, it still has to go to the liver to be converted into growth factors. But what's happened last month, and I believe that went into effect November 17th, but it was announced at the end of October, is peptides, especially growth hormone peptides, are now banned by the FDA. And it's because of a lot of different things, if you want to get into that. But so those are no longer available, which is also why I think we've seen a lot of huge spike in what we're doing, because it's one of only 3 options that isn't banned or highly regulated, if that makes sense.
And then we give out blood panels and things like that, and I always try and get, unless guys are, 50 plus, but try other ways to boost testosterone before going to TRT. I'm the biggest fan of that. But for those that are taking TRT, would you recommend for it to be most effective to have it work with some?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And that's not even my opinion. Those are physician opinions. Not every physician, but the ones we work with, 100%. And that's because it's a synergistic product. It has shown repeatedly in blood panels from Utah to New York to all over the place, different patients in different parts of the country and different places, to increase in their testosterone to show in blood panels by a large margins. I'm not saying that's going to happen for every single patient. I'm saying every patient is different. Everybody's physiology is different. I'm saying that it has shown more than a few times of what blood panels look like. In fact, some doctors, we don't even tell that. They just love the idea of the growth factor product and they use it. And then they're like, hey, this happened in our blood panels. I got to show you this. I'm like, I can't say that I'm surprised. I love getting the results, but I'm not surprised at all, because it's been something that's repeatable.
Cheers to that. And then before we wrap up here, Dustin, I'd love to hear a little bit about your transition from kind of coach trainer in the human performance space to leader of a business. Maybe what is one thing that you learned in being in the kind of coaching space that kind of really benefited you to when you came into running a business?
Man, what did I learn in training? So I can't say that I learned this in training. I think I could have actually I learned this later in my life. I would say more in my 30s instead of my 20s. And I learned this from a previous business mentor, now a business partner of mine in a holding company that we own, but is delayed gratification. Understanding that nothing worth having is an overnight thing, that there's in real life, the things that are most successful never really happen overnight. They are the accumulation of, solid, consistent effort over long ranges of time. They just seem to be overnight to everybody else. Because nobody ever heard about you and nobody ever cared until one day, and then they care. And then it's like, oh, it's an overnight success. Like, whatever, dude, that's not how it works. And the same thing works with training, right? Like, you look at these guys and they put a lot of these athletes who are 18 years old or 19 years old on a pedestal, maybe a little older now with, college football and stuff. And they're like, oh, these big stars came out of nowhere. Dude, I've seen where those kids start. They start at 4 to 6 years old with ex-pro athlete coaches, and they're in there now. This isn't every athlete, but I'm saying I've seen the training from 4 years old all the way through the college prep. I mean, it is a lifelong for them endeavor. And it's an investment in a big way. And I think that's a lot with a lot of different sports, especially, football being one of them, but you look across golf, tennis, swimming, I mean, any of this type of stuff, it is a long process. So delayed gratification is something I honestly wish I would have learned earlier, but I definitely try and teach it to young guys who are either trying to get up in sales or trying to start in a business and move their way up that. It's about patience. It's about patience and proving you can do things for the long haul, because a lot of people start businesses. Most of them never last. And I will say that of the people that I have spoken to that have started businesses or come to us, or whether it's me or somebody else for business advice, the difference is they have great ideas. Everybody does. I believe everybody has great ideas. They lack the ability to execute the monotonous, boring day-to-day stuff that has to occur for years before the success or the scalable or the big snowball moment and of explosion happens. They lack the ability to, and this is an Andy Frisella thing, and I'm stealing this from another guy, the owner of First Form, but it's mastering the monotonous.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a great research article. I think it was on swimmers or something back then. But it was mastering the mundane. It's very similar.
It's the same thing. You have to do all the stuff that sucks because that's training, right? You have to do the things that suck that you don't like to do. That's going to make you the best athlete.
I love that. Okay, rapid fire to wrap up here, Dustin. Thank you so much. This has been we've learned a ton here.
I hope so.
Biggest mentor in
your life. Hang up the phone, and the guy's like, "Oh man, what a waste of time that was."
Biggest mentor in your life.
Man, biggest mentor in my life. So, I could say, this was supposed to be rapid fire. I've had a couple, and they all have focused on different things. I will say, my business partner now, because he's been with me through a lot. He's watched me fail repeatedly. He's given me advice, and he's been there to answer the phone when there was no investment whatsoever from his part, where he didn't actually stand to gain anything, and he would be the first person I would call when something went south in a big way. So I would say him. His name's Darvin, and he has built and scaled businesses repeatedly, and I'm lucky to have him on my team to this day. Now mentor me through the process and doing it together.
That's awesome. Best book or research paper that you've read in the past year?
Oh, that's easy, dude. That's easy. So I have a few different books, but I think the best book I recommend to people all the time is called The Blue Ocean Strategy. If you've never read it, you ever heard of that book? Blue Ocean Strategy has made me a ton of money, and it's made me a ton of money, and it's completely changed the business. So it's just a book it's a strategizing book. It's not a story book. And I love that about it. It's actually tactical use skills. It's executable skills. It's a work through book. You do the work while you go. And if you follow the path it lays out for you and you do the exercises, I just can't see how it could fail. I mean, it is a brilliant book. So that's my number one.
That's super helpful. And then is that where they talk about compared to the red ocean?
Yep. Blue ocean, red ocean. It's learning how to reposition your products in the most profitable way with the less amount. It's everything you would want from a business, how to reposition your products to customers who actually want to buy them and were willing to pay a lot more money for them, and making them at maximizing your actual net profit, not just your gross profit, and making it skyrocketed our business, dude. And it made life so much more fun to live. From a business
I love that.
standpoint.
I want to order that from Amazon today. Thank you.
No, dude. Okay, so if we're going to talk about that, and I don't want to, kill the whole time, but you got to do the Blue Ocean Strategy, and then they have a follow-up book called the Blue Ocean Shift, and I highly recommend you got to do the work while you're reading the book. Do not say, "Oh, I'll read it again," or "I'll go back through." Don't do the exercises as you do it. Man, it has. Dude, from a business standpoint, it was one of the better moves I ever did, and it was really great. We actually implemented it, among other books and other things, but
of course,
that's the one. You told me one, so I have 5 more I can follow up with that right after, but that was the one.
And then with what you've been doing the past 10 years, and then before that, where do you see now kind of the human performance space next 5-10 years? Do you see
the human performance space in general?
Yes, and or immediately what comes to mind, trending maybe somewhat smaller within your industry.
You want me to go the exact opposite way than you probably would think I was going to go? And I'll give you a really good soundbite here. This will make you go viral and probably make a lot of people mad. I see higher regulations coming for hormone drugs, synthetic drugs like testosterone, just like they did peptides. I talked about the peptide thing to physicians 3 years ago. I was saying this is going to happen. You can't do this with these drugs. What happened? 3 years, boom, done. I see the same thing happening with a lot of other drugs that they're promote that are really huge right now, like testosterone. That's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, but that's what I see happening.
And why did you see that happening 3 years ago with the peptides? Why did you?
Well, so what happens is you have these drugs that are great. They actually work. I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. I'm against pharmaceutical drugs that are not useful, but or do more harm than good. But I'm not against modern medical intervention when it's needed. Okay. If somebody walked in through my door right now, and I'm not a doctor, I don't prescribe, I don't do any of that. Okay. But if I was a physician and somebody walked through my door and they had a level of 150 testosterone, your life is awful, dude. Like that's an awful way to live. You could feel so much better. And yes, we want to make sure that you're doing things you can to improve testosterone naturally, but sometimes there is a medical intervention that is needed. So, take the shot, dude, because that's tough. 150, dude, life is tough. I mean, anyway, so, why I went off on
the peptides
yeah. So with peptides, what happens is you start having people prescribe drugs at work, and they start to get prescribed off label, meaning, oh, they work really good for this, let's start using it. Fine. But what happens is people get carried away. You give people an inch and they take a mile. So peptides were originally prescribed for 3 weeks after a surgery because they work. They do work. They help accelerated healing. They help the secretion of growth hormone. They work. The problem is they stopped being prescribed for post-surgical healing, whatever. And they're just, now you have people prescribing them for like the rest of your life. Like just go take these. Now they're not designed to do that. What you're doing is you're taking a synthetic compounded amino acid chain that doesn't occur naturally in nature. You're taking that in your body for however long we don't know how, we don't know what that's going to do long-term. We don't know what ingesting or injecting or taking in these different types of compounds is going to do for you. Well, if you do that and you guys go crazy with this stuff, the FDA steps in and goes, hey, we're not going to do this anymore, which is exactly what they did. And so for better or for worse, that's what happens. I'm not saying that the peptides are going to cause people problems. I'm not saying that long-term there isn't issues. I'm not saying that they're not either. What I'm saying is when you start going hard in the paint like that, somebody's going to step in. And that's exactly what happened. And it happened to growth hormone before that, because everybody was, people were getting prescribed growth hormone. Growth hormone works. I mean, it has a lot of side effects if you're abusing it, and it has a lot of side effects for certain types of individuals, but it doesn't not work. It does work. The issue is it gets out of control. Regulations step in, people step in and go, nope, you're not going to do that anymore. And that's exactly what happened. And I believe that that's happening with testosterone. Testosterone has gone from, now I'm not saying it's not needed because testosterone levels are at an all-time low. What I'm saying is it went from, a discussion with your doctor to I can order it online right now. And it'll be at my door, dude, in 2 days, right? So like you push the limit and somebody's going to step in. Now, I don't know when that's going to happen, and it could never happen. I am saying by around 2030 is probably when the hammer's going to drop on that.
Sure, I can believe it. That's just what happened with peptides. And then I didn't even know the history.
I mean, that came out of nowhere too. I mean, they literally were like, you know what? We're done here. And they just, I mean, it is what it is. For better or for worse, it's a governmental regulatory body, and they can decide what they want to do when they want to do it. And, it is what it is.
Mm. Well, Dustin Baker, thank you so much for coming on Super Athlete Radio today. You have an amazing line of products. Where is the best place for people to find those? And if people want to reach out to you specifically, where's the best place to go?
If you want to find our products, you can go online. We have a website like everybody else. It's www.bioproteintech.com, BioProteintech.com. If you want to interact and kind of see what we believe in, our worldview, and all the other guys that use our products, you can check us out on the good old Instagram. We're very popular on that. It's the same. It's BioProtein Tech. So at BioProtein Tech, BioProteintech. If you would like to reach out to me, you can reach out via that social media channel. Just go ahead and ask who's ever managing that thing for me, and we'll get you in contact if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much. Cool. Dustin, I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you for coming on Super Athlete Radio.
Oh, thank you, Chase. I appreciate you spending your time with me this afternoon.